Good morning. And how are you today? First, you guys are waking up feeling refreshed and ready to begin a new day. Today is Friday, September the 5th, and we have this opportunity to spend it together. I started off this morning, and I was having a little trouble with the connection, so I was a little worried that we may not be getting uh, uh, a time together this morning. But I'm glad that that has all resolved itself. You know, there this past week we have been looking at a number of passages that deal with Psalm 40, and we have looked at uh, a number of issues regarding about David's experience, and I'd like to just finish that up with a little bit with you, and then if time permits, I'd like to show you a little video of our upcoming sermon series that we're going to be having called "Why I Should Trust the Bible," and it's going to be answering a lot of common questions that people get, and I was just hoping that that this would meet a need, giving people much more confidence in the scriptures that we spend so much time talking about. Well, as we began this week, there were a couple of things that I wanted to bring to everyone's notice, right? And that is, as we've been looking through Psalm 40, we worked ourselves through four major areas here that David was talking about how his faith has really helped him during these periods of real trial. And the consequence of that has been that there is ultimately this hope that he says will never disappoint us. And so there's this passage now that I'd just like to bring you back to, and and it kind of concludes this whole Psalm 40. So if you pick it up in verse 11 of Psalm 40, I'd like to read this to you. It says, "Do not withhold your mercy from me, O Lord. May your love and your truth always protect me." Now, if you look at verse 11, and you see like this is a petition now, David is asking the Lord to do something from him, in this moment. He tells him, "Troubles without number surround me. My sins have overtaken me. I cannot see." Right? Before he couldn't hear. It was the Lord who pierced his ear, right? Opened his ear so that he could really hear. And now he's saying like he's blinded. He really can't see. There are more, he says, these sins, these troubles, they are more than the hairs of my head, and my heart fails within me. Be pleased, O Lord, to save me. O Lord, come quickly to help me. Now, when you read this, past progress was real, wasn't it? In the past, God came and notice again, just for our study's sake, look at the first three verses here in Psalm 40. It says, "I waited patiently for the Lord, and he turned to me and heard me. He lifted me out of the pit, right out of the mud, the mire. He set my feet on a rock, gave me a firm place to stand. He put a new song in my mouth, a hymn of praise to our God. Many will see and fear and put their trust in the Lord." And so this is what got us going this past week, how David is looking back and he talks about an experience, right, where he just really waited patiently on the Lord. This was an active trust that looks up, cries out, and keeps its grip until God answers. And we all recognize that it was hard to wait. But here God turns to him. And here we have this picture of God bending down to listen, as it were, to David. And yet here we now find ourselves, and it seems like it's a very different circumstance. So what David did was he was looking back and saw how God had come through, put this new song in his mouth, and now he's saying, "But Lord, you got to do it again. I please don't withhold your mercy from me. Troubles without number surround me. My sins have overtaken me." It could be a combination now of things, right? Maybe David has, you know, um, just rebelled against God for a season here. Maybe the enemies that were surrounding Israel at the time were clamoring, right, and threatening. Whatever it is, you could see that this isn't just like, I have a headache and I hope help me to get some rest. No, these are some serious troubles that seem to be overwhelming David again. And he's praying as he did as he mentioned in the beginning. I waited patiently for the Lord, and he turned to me, right, and he heard me. And so David's asking for that again. And so look at verse 14. He says, "May all who seek to take my life be put to shame and confusion. May all who desire my ruin be turned back in disgrace. May those who say to me, 'Aha,' be appalled at their own shame." You know, people like to gloat, right, when people are down. But he says here, "But may all who seek you rejoice and be glad in you. May those who love your salvation always say, 'The Lord be exalted.' Yet I am poor and needy. May the Lord think of me. You are my help and my deliverer, O Lord, my God. Do not delay." You know, I think Jesus said it best when he reminded us in John chapter 16. And he says, "In this world you will have much trouble, but take heart, I have overcome the world." You notice that David's tone here changes dramatically at verse 11. The first part of this verse was all about thanksgiving, and now it's all about petition. Yet it's the same faith counting on God's steadfast love and truth. See, this is the biggest lesson to me from Psalm 40 is, look, we live in a world that is very, very cyclical, isn't it? It seems like we live our lives, and there are some days that they couldn't be going better. And then there are some days, like the person says, some days you feel like you're on top of the mountain, and some days you feel like the mountain's on top of you. And there is this cycle. Why? Because we live in a world that is not at harmony with itself, within itself, right? There's signs of our brokenness all around us. And yet David, in the beginning part of the psalm, was acknowledging how God had come and rescued him. And now he's asking him to do it again. Life is going to be full of setbacks, right? It feels like it's two steps forward and then one step back. But the constant here in this psalm is God's steadfast love and his truth. God is not going to excuse sin, but at the same time, God can forgive sin. And so I think of trials that come into our life, and I'm reminded again of a passage in James chapter 1 and verses 2-4. In James chapter 1, 2, and 4, it says, "Consider it pure joy, my brothers, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith develops perseverance," right? Waiting patiently. "And perseverance must finish its work so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything." See, so the whole idea of these trials, at least in this life, right, is that they may mature us. they may complete us, that they would find a way of developing within us perseverance. And what's all that about? But it's a perseverance in the way in which we are laying hold of God and the promises that He has made to us. We can't we can't be fickle, like, on one minute, off the next. Like, there is no rest in that. There is no peace in that. Psalm 40 is a declaration of David saying, basically, look, God helped me in the past, and I am praying to Him now that He will help me in the present. Because faith looks back to fuel hope for today. Let me say that again. Faith, it looks back in order to fuel hope for today. So whether it's the evil in the world or within us, troubles without or sin that has overtaken me, this is a song that's telling us, no, God hears and God acts and God saves. Our need for deliverance is continuous, and God's deliverance is continuous. There's this rhythm of testimony and trust that is going to cause many to hear and see and put their hope, right, in the Lord. This is God demonstrating in us His power and the strength of this good news that He has been sharing. So when the waves hit, God is just asking us to rehearse our track record with Him, to ask boldly for new mercies, and for us to keep praising even in that tension. So there is this rhythm that you find then in Psalm 40 about waiting and trusting, about speaking up, and about hoping again. So what pit do you find yourself in? Could it be fear? Maybe it's grief. Could be confusion. Maybe even loneliness. God's asking us to wait actively, to wait patiently, to trust Him. And when He comes through, to speak up and tell people, because you're going to find yourself in that position where I'm going to have to hope again and trust again and speak up again until this day that I see Him face to face and this race that I'm running is over. We have to offer listening ears, willing hearts. We have to speak of His rescue so that when the next storm rises, the Lord will take thought of you. This has been a great psalm. What I'd like to do now is just switch gears for a moment with you. In a short while, a week from this coming Sunday, we're going to begin a new series, and this new series is going to be called, why should I trust the Bible? This is a study that is going to be a 6-part series. We're also including a small group component. So if you get on our Bethany Church website, you'll find all the information there that you need. There's a study guide that's free. It's available. And we are going to be using a video series in our small group studies by a woman named Amy Ewing Amy Orr Ewing. She a brilliant PhD from Oxford. She's a lecturer there at the King's College in London. Very, very bright. Heads up a whole consortium of those who are involved heavily in apologetics. Very, very bright, very, very good communicator. And so this whole series, Why Should I Study the Bible, is going to begin on September the 14th. And so I'm just giving you a little heads up. And what I thought I would do is show you a little bit of a preview of a video from Amy. And so I'd like to have you look at this.
Have you ever had the experience of someone turning to you and asking, "You don't honestly believe all that stuff in the Bible, do you?" I remember desperately searching for something credible to say decades ago when a friend came straight out and asked me, "Noah's Ark, do you believe in that?" I'm sure many of us can identify both with being asked questions about the Bible and also with asking them ourselves. Can I really trust that this is God's word? Isn't it all just a matter of interpretation? What about all the miracles? How could any educated person believe in those? In this series, we'll look at 6 of the most common questions people have asked me during more than 20 years of working in the field of Christian theology. If you're wondering, or if you've ever been asked, why trust the Bible, then I hope you'll join me, Amy or Ewing, to hear the answers.
Yeah, this is going to be a great series of just centering on the reliability of the scriptures. Questions like, isn't it all just a matter of interpretation? You know, you hear people say that all the time. Well, you can make the Bible say whatever you want. Is the Bible sexist? What's with all the violence in the Bible? How can you have this Jesus who speaks about peace, and yet you open up your Old Testament and it's filled with all these stories of heartache and trouble? These are all part of those kinds of questions that we want to be looking at as we engage, you know, in our studies together. So I thought maybe with the time that remains a little bit, what I'd like to do is just maybe take you through a little bit of what we're planning in terms of the series itself, and I'll just give you this quick little overview. Okay, so when you talk about, you know, trusting the Bible, that kind of trust, it doesn't come automatic, does it? You know, in a world that's full of opinions and algorithms and texts, I think it's fair to ask some hard questions. So the series is for anyone who's ever wondered if the Bible is still worth reading, believing, or building a life on. Over the 6 weeks, I'm going to unpack some of these most common doubts and discover how the Bible speaks with a clarity, with a relevance, and with a hope that I think if people just spent a little bit of time, they would really be amazed. So while Amy Ewing is going to be providing us with some teaching for our small groups, on Sunday mornings, I'm going to be looking at these same themes and talking to you, you know, in our Sunday messages. So we're going to talk, like I said, what is the Bible and why should I trust it? And the big idea here is that the Bible has survived centuries of criticism, translation, cultural change. But why does it still matter? And that's where that's what I would like to address on that day. The next week, we're going to talk about, isn't it all just a matter of interpretation? But the Bible, it speaks clearly when we learn to listen a little more carefully. I can't tell you how many times I've heard people say to me, isn't it all just interpretation? We hear that a lot. But what if the Bible actually speaks clearly? And the problem is that we're just not listening carefully. Well, then there's another criticism about didn't a group of men decide what would be in the Bible? Like how did this whole book come together? And you're going to discover that the Bible is not a product of some human selection, but a divinely inspired collection of writings that have been affirmed by the early church, not just a small group of individuals. it wasn't just a bunch of guys that decided what was it going to be in the Bible. And we're going to talk about how the Bible was created, and give people, I think, another level of confidence. Well, in week 4, we're going to talk about, isn't the Bible sexist? From Genesis to Jesus, the Bible shows that women matter, that they're made in his image, trusted with truth, and chosen to lead. So, is the Bible sexist? Here's a spoiler alert. Jesus is flipping the script on people. Women in the Bible, if you really are paying attention, are seen and valued and empowered. And we're going to draw that out. What about, as I said, all the wars in the Old Testament? What's with all the violence? That's a tough question. But that question is answered when you understand something of the bigger story behind the battles. And we're going to be wrestling with some difficult texts and seeing the bigger picture. God's involvement in the Old Testament, reveals this redemptive purpose to bring blessing and salvation to all the nations. And this is what God is about. Well, then the last one, can I believe in miracles in a scientific age? Jesus's miracles challenge the belief that only what's scientifically provable is real. Because there's a lot of things that the culture as a whole wants us to believe, but they're not scientifically proven either. I mean, we're going to look at some of these fallacies and hopefully at the end of the day, give you a firm foundation on which to believe. Because my hope is after spending this time, you have gained more confidence in this book. And the consequence of that is you'll spend more time in this book. And then we're going to begin a whole nother series that will just open up the scriptures to us in a way I think that you'll find really challenging and deeply, enriching. So I want to thank you for today. This coming weekend, I get to spend it with my boys, and we're celebrating one of my son's birthdays. So it's going to be. I'm looking forward to seeing them all. But my friends, thank you so much for joining me on these morning studies. I trust that they become a source of real inspiration and confidence for you. I hope that this community that we develop online and really across our country and even around the world, we're making good friends and we're challenging one another to love God more deeply and to love one another from the heart. Well, I hope you're challenged to go out and, as we said, to wait patiently on the Lord, to trust him, to obey him, to speak of his goodness, and to never let this hope die. Go out, seize the day, and never forget that God is good all the time. Again, thank you for joining me on this Friday, September the 5th. A little rainy out today, but it's always a pleasure to be with you. God bless you. Lord willing, see you on the weekend.